Hello and namaste everyone. It's a pleasure to present our research achievement and finding at this reputed international symposium on current research in hydropower technology. And the research that we are presenting is performance analysis of gravitational water vortex power plant using scale down model. And we are 5 people involved in this research. Presenting you, I am Ashish Sedai. I am researcher at Vortex Energy Solution Private Limited, Bhaktapur, Nepal. And here are my other co-authors. So to guide you through our achievement and finding, let's get started. Before I move into the main topic, let me guide you through micro hydropower plant and its installation history in Nepal. Micro hydropower plant are those plants which are capable of producing hydroelectricity power generation up to 100 kilowatt of power. And looking into the high potential of water resources and capable of producing up to 45,610 megawatt of feasible hydroelectricity power generation. The micro hydro power began in Nepal around 60 years ago, and we are capable of mere 23 megawatt of electricity from these kind of power plant in last 60 years. And if we see the graph represented in figure 1, it shows the installed mini and micro hydropower plant in Nepal from year 2005 to 2017, and we can see that the maximum capacity in um, power generation from these kind of hydropower plants was maximum. It was around 3500 kilowatt, but gradually it got decreased in 2000 years 16 and 17. And figure 2 represents the construction cost of different micro hydropower plant installed at various locations of Nepal. It presents that the cost per kilowatt comes around 2836 kilowatt uh, per kilowatt. So this is the general concept of the micro hydropower plant, and the research topic, that is gravitational water vortex power plant, also comes under micro hydro power plant. So moving to the topic, gravitational water vortex power plant. As I already said, this type of power plant comes under micro hydro, and this is a ultra low head hydropower concept. That is, it requires just 0.7 to 2 meter of height. And the best thing about this hydropower plant is it is suitable in all three regions of Nepal: mountainous, hilly, and Tarai. So the basic principle for the power generation from this micro hydro is, when water is passed tangentially uh, in a in a canal, it enters to a conical chamber, in which at the inlet vortex is generated, and that generated vortex helps to make the runner rotate, and which ultimately produce electricity. If you see the past development of this project in Nepal, we can find that Vertex Energy Solution made a first attempt to to generate hydropower plant of 1.6 kilowatt in Bagmati River with a flow rate of 0.2 meter cube per second and height 1.5 meter. And this attempt was very successful. And further, the company is proposing a site in a Solukhumpu district for the installation capacity of 10 kilowatt. So this is the development of the gravitational water vortex power plant in Nepal. And although Nepal being very less exposed and very limited research material, the advancement and the research in this field is very interesting. For our research, uh, we first we firstly studied the theoretical design of basin and runner. We designed our prototype using the same concept. So the equation that we see in the first is the tangential velocity distribution equation, VR, and the second equation is the Bernoulli equations, and we use this equation to identify the equation for developing our basin structures. And for our runner development, We assume it as an impulse type turbine, where the u in the graph is tangential velocity, v is absolute velocity of the jet, vw is world velocity. So this is the basic concept that we use for the impulse type turbine runner design. As our research is performance analysis of gravitational water vortex at using scale down model. So model scaling was a very crucial part of our research. So for the scaling purpose, we use a Froude number that governs the dynamic similarity between a model and a prototype. So for the prototype dimension, we use the to be installed hydropower plant in South Africa of 12 kilowatt hydropower that is going to be installed there by the Vortex Energy solution company. And we did a model scaling in a scale of 1 is to 20. So the table represents the dimensions of the model and a prototype that we did the investigation on. Uh, After scaling was done, we studied the computational study of the of the model. So for that, we made a fluid domain in a solid box. Then we imported it to a ANSYS CFX, and then we discretized to generate small units by hex dominant meshing with free face type set to all quadrilaterals to produce a uniform meshing. And we set boundary conditions with at inlet with 0.0315 kg per second, that is our mass flow rate, and outlet condition with under static pressure of 1 atm. The flow we consider it as incomprehensible, therefore turbulence mode k epsilon um, were chosen for the validation purpose. And the image that you see in the uh, is the streamlines of velocity that represents the velocity at the different position of the basin, and the other diagram that represents the velocity contour that represents the velocity at the runner position. So it was found that in a computational study of 1 to 20 scale down model of gravitational water vortex power plant, it was seen that the velocity at the inlays was found to be 0.02 meter per second, and the velocity at the runner position was found to be 0.07 meter per second. So this this helps also to understand that the velocity at the inlet to the runner position, it increases by 3 to 5 times because of the vortex generated due to basin structure. So for this scale of the of the model, we found that the velocity increases by 3 to 5%. And the equation that you see in the left represents the Navier-Stokes equation that that is implemented by the CFD software to compute. So after our result from the computational study, we compare it with the past study, and for our case of computational study, we did a grid convergence test, and we the number of the elements in the final computational domain was used for the simulation was this 158737, as the change in velocity was very less from this 0.066 to 0.07. So if we compare, so moving with the comparison with the past study, if we compare with the past computational study, we can see that in 2014 by Dhakal, Sagar Dhakal, we can see that he performed a computational study in a scale of 1 is to 3.375, and he observed an Indian velocity with as 0.1 and velocity at runner position at 0.375, and the ratio comes out to be 1 is to 3.375. And similarly in 2016, the study performed by Rabin Dhakal in the scale of 1 is to 6.75, the inlet velocity was observed as 0.3 and velocity at runner position was observed as 1.3, and the ratio comes here is 1.1 is to 4.33. And for our case, like we performed uh, analysis in 1 is to 20 scale For that, we got our velocity 0.02 meter per second, and at the runner position we got it as 0.07 meter per second, and our ratio of these two velocities are 1 is to 3.75. So after the computational study and its comparison, we did a experimental study on the scale down model. For that, we fabricated our scale down model in a design lab, Kathmandu University, and the material we used was a transparent PLA, and we made a experimental setup with a water pump that could discharge at the rate of 0.02 liter per second. And the equation on the right side shows the how we calculate the power in the shaft. We calculate the RPM with the help of tachometer. So the experiment was conducted, and out of which we got the result that is represented in table 3, and we compare it with the past experimental study. And if we compare with the experiment that performed by Dhakal in the year 2018, he performed in a scale of 1 is to 1.8 with the inlet velocity of 0.2 meter cube per second, and he got the maximum RPM of 95 and efficiency as 70.9%. And again by Dhakal, this time by Sata Dhakal, he performed the experiment in a scale of 1 is to 3.375. He observed the inlet velocity of 0.1 meter per second and observed a maximum RPM of 174, and he observed the efficiency of 36.84%. And again by Rabin Dhakal, he did an experiment in 1 is to 6.75 scale uh, and he observed inlet velocity of 0.03 meter per second and maximum RPM of 140 with efficiency of 28.4%. And in our research, we did an experiment in 1 is to 20 scale, and we observed the inlet velocity of 0.02 meter per second and RPM of 200 with the efficiency of 12.1%. And the scale that we are proposing is corresponding with the scale of plant that we are going to uh, manufacture in that we are going to develop in South Africa.
So, after the computational and experimental investigation on scale down model of gravitational water vortex power plant, we came into some conclusion, and we are presenting those conclusions as a part of discussion in this part of the section. So, starting with the performance of turbine mechanical system, from the presentation itself, on the right side of the presentation slide, we can see the graph between percentage of efficiency versus scale. So from the graph, we are clear that uh, the case study we perform on the 1 is to 20 scale has the least efficiency as compared to the other scale. So it is clear that as we scale down the model, the efficiency gradually decreases. But same is not in the case of the RPM. So on the left side of the slide, uh, the graph between scale versus maximum RPM is presented. So in this case, we observed that as we scale down the model, it the RPM of the runner gets increases up to 1 is to 3.375 scale, but later it gets slowly decrease as we further scale down the model, and again it gradually increases. So the the change in the RPM is little unpredictable with the as we scale down the model. So this is the general findings, general outcomes of the uh, experiment that we performed on. It's based on the performance of the turbine. So moving forward on the discussion part with the performance of generator. So In order to calculate the efficiency of the generator used in our 3D modeling, uh, we found that the efficiency to be 93%, more than 93%, and we calculated the efficiency by the product of turbine efficiency, generator efficiency, gearbox efficiency, and transfer efficiency, as you can also see in the slide. So after computational and experimental study on the scaled down model of gravitational water vortex plant that to be installed in South Africa, we came into conclusion that as we scale down the model, the efficiency gets decreases. But so is not in the case of RPM. In case of RPM of the runner, what we observed is that when we scale down the model up to 1 is to 3.3, the RPM gets increases, and as we further scale down, the RPM slowly gets decreases and ultimately increases. So we can't really predict how RPM of the turbine is going to react over the scale over the scaling of the model. But what we have concluded is that the efficiency is going to be decreased if we are scaling down the model. And these are the reference that we took to investigate the computational and experimental investigation on a scale down model of gravitational water vortex power plant. Thank you so much for your time and passion. If you have any queries or if you are interested in the project, write a mail in the mail address that is available on the presentation slide on the left side. And if you want the industrial collaboration, you can go into the Vortex Energy Solution website. You will find a mail address there. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye bye.